Kathy Walterhouse. I love talking about sales. The first question I ask her is, why is it a dirty word? Why do so many people have a negative, view on sales? And of course, the truth is, without sales, anyone can't provide a solution to a problem. We all have this negative view of the used car sales person, that they're just trying to put you in something that you don't want, and they're just looking for their commission. It's purely transactional. There's no humanity to it. But we talk about that. She's got a great podcast where she talks about it. She's a sales professional. She does coaching. She's sold over $1 billion worth of sales in her career. Very impressive. The Professional Rule Breaker is her podcast, but she's wonderful to talk to and refreshing, and just some of the common mistakes that are done in sales, not following up. Success is only 20% skill. I wonder how you feel about that, if you really reflect on it. But it's a great conversation with Kathy Walterhouse about that. We also talked about the difference between, there's these walls oftentimes with marketing and sales and engineering. Why can't we all be on the same page? It would just make everything so smooth. But it's a great conversation. I love talking about sales. As an owner of a business, you have to be a salesperson. And to get what you want, you have to start selling. It's just, it's a great conversation, and I love the topic, and you'll see that in the conversation. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. My goodness, Kathy Walterhouse, so excited. Thank you for your time today. Love talking about sales, but why does it have such a negative stigma? Why do people consider it dirty?
Oh my goodness. That is so true. And I'm glad you brought it up. First thing, because there are so many people that think sales is slimy, it's dirty. And it comes from the experience that many of us have had with a salesperson that uses those techniques. And the classic example is the used car salesman, that you go in there and they don't listen to you, and you just feel slimy because they're hammering you over the head, because all they're thinking about is their commission check. They're not thinking about you, the customer. And then the cousin of slimy or sleazy is spammy sales, which in this day and age is huge for anyone that's on email or social media. I don't know about you, Joe, but I get blasted with people literally spamming me. And what's funny about the whole thing is a lot of times they'll send me a bunch of messages about selling and how to sell and all those type of things. I'm thinking, they didn't even read my profile or listen to anything that I had to say, which means they don't know anything about me, which is the biggest mistake you can make in sales, not knowing your customer.
It is the biggest. And, what do I have to do to put you in this car today? We've all had that kind of, just used car salesperson, like you said. And Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst experience. So, I do a lot of I do almost 95% of my job. I have a tech company, and trying to create an environment in which customers can purchase, or
Mhm.
is what I strive for, not really to sell them.
But just to give them value
Mm,
and hope for the future, right? And solve their problems. It sounds like that is what you're doing, which is the complete opposite of what we
right.
were just talking about with that whole slimy, spammy selling. I mean, just think about what a difference, just with what you just said, that your customers feel like versus someone who has experienced that, really, I would say yucky, if that's, just that feeling of somebody not caring at all about you or what your outcome is. There's a big difference, right? And there's also a difference in authenticity too, because that person that's being slimy, it's just trying to get through. Like you're another number. Let's go
Mm,
to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Right? This person came in, I'm going to sell them something, then there's going to be somebody else. There's no relationship, there's no nothing. Versus with what you said, you try to create an environment in which your customers feel comfortable and
right.
people buy from people that they like.
Mm. Even in a casual setting, when you mention, if you mention that you're in sales, all of a sudden everybody's on their heels. Oh boy.
Here it comes.
Here they're gonna try to sell me. So, when you're speaking, one of the prime kind of themes is once it resembles a pitch, it's death, right? So, when so the idea is you can't, but aren't we always selling, Kathy? Are we selling right now?
We are selling from, I almost said from the day that we're born, but not
Mm,
quite, but
mm,
pretty close to that. And that's the thing that most people don't realize is that everything that you do in some shape or form is selling. When you
mm,
go out on a date with someone, you're selling because you're selling who you are to that person. When you're in a restaurant and you order something, you're selling. But even way back when, an infant, they're selling too. When they cry, you go running
mm.
over there and you pick them up, right? So that they know every time you do something, oh, if I do this one action, I'll get this reaction.
Right.
So it's all selling. So, and I actually think that selling is something truly noble because I
Mm.
think without selling, nobody would know the products and the services that are out there. Commerce would stop. So, really, it makes the world go around.
It's just in speaking just these few moments, I remember as a youth, my father is an immigrant, Italian immigrant, and very kind of cut and dry. And he would often say to me, I'd say, can I sleep over a friend's house or whatever whatever my request was, and he'd be like, I'm sorry, what are you selling me? He'd actually
Right.
use
What
he
is it
would
that
use
you want? Yeah.
yeah, what are you selling right now? And I'd always be confused, like, Dad, I'm just not selling anything, but I really was. I wanted a dollar to go to the movies, or whatever. I wanted, whatever it was. I was asking for something.
Yep. Exactly. And in essence, you were selling.
Yeah.
I mean, selling in the traditional sense is an exchange, it's a transaction.
Mm.
But in reality, what it is that you're getting something of value that you want that moves you away from pain and closer to pleasure or something good.
People hate to be sold to, but
Yes.
they love to buy.
Yep. Yep. You're right. People hate to be sold to. I actually have a saying that I teach, and it is sell like you would want to be sold to. Because you don't want somebody doing something spammy or nasty to you. You want somebody to come solve your problem in some shape or form and get you to whatever the next level is for you.
You also stress how the most important skill is listening.
Yeah. If you can't listen, you can't sell.
Right.
And listening comes in a lot of different ways, right? It's, what people are saying, it's their body language. How are they sitting? How are they standing? How are they reacting to you? Are they looking at you, at your eyes? Are they shaking their head? Do they have their arms crossed?
Mm.
There's so much that comes to listening other than just the sound.
You were saying how important listening is and how the response is. And, if you can't listen, you won't understand what their problem is. And then how can you solve it?
Right. Exactly. I mean, how do you expect to do anything when it comes to moving your product or your service if you're not willing to listen to the
Mm.
customer? You have to know them inside and out. I always use the example of, let's say, like, we're in Alaska, both you and I are in Alaska, and off, in the water, we see an iceberg. So what do you see in an iceberg? You see the ice at the top, right? And it's floating in the water. Well, you're only seeing 20% of the iceberg.
Mm.
80% is underneath the water. So if you don't listen, all you'll see is what's on the surface. You're
Mm.
not going to see anything else. Maybe like, how they're talking to you and the demographics that you might know and things that maybe you might have researched about the customer. The 80% that floats underneath the water, that is where you find the gold. That is where, in your questioning, you find out really what does the customer really need, because they'll tell you, hey, I want, I don't know, a lower price.
Mm.
But do they really want a lower price? So the more you dig, you find out, well, they need a lower price because maybe they want to look good for their boss, or maybe it's a power thing, or maybe they have a certain budget that they're trying their best to fit your product into. So once you find out all those things, it can help you structure whatever offer it is that you are going to give to them. Plus, if you're there and you listen and you ask the right questions, you become a partner versus a salesperson. So then
Mm.
you're no longer that dreaded salesperson that's coming in. When they talk to their coworkers, you're no longer, oh my gosh, it's Kathy, the salesperson from
Mm.
XYZ. You're like, oh gosh, I'm so excited to meet with Kathy. She's doing all this really great stuff for us. So it just changes.
Yeah, you become an actual partner. You don't kind of get the sale, throw it over the wall, never see them again. You actually become maybe even a trusted advisor. You mentioned listening. I often find I take good notes and just use their same words back to them when you're presenting the proposal, when you're presenting your solution. You said that you had these problems. Here's how my solution addresses those exact problems. It seems so simple, Kathy.
It does. It does. Because you're using the communication that they feel comfortable with. Another thing that you can do, if this is a face to face meeting, is you mirror, because in essence, you're mirroring the conversation, but you can also mirror their body language, because it's always about people buy from people that they like.
Hmm.
So if you have a demeanor that they feel comfortable with, so let's say they're sitting back, right? You do the same exact thing because it shows that they're comfortable and that you're recognizing they're also comfortable and you're comfortable in the same space. So it kind of changes the atmosphere. It's always kind of interesting for like new people that are in sales. If they've never done it before, I highly recommend just do a test if you have a face-to-face meeting. And you can do it in Zoom too. But just kind of mirror what it is that they're doing. And you're going to see them almost do like like they just settle.
I can remember one particular incident where I just told somebody brought up a particular point, and I happen to know a little bit of a history about it. There was a Norwegian group, and they mentioned a particular alcohol, And I had just come back from a cruise, and we actually celebrated with the alcohol. So I told the story. I said, isn't that the alcohol where this, and that? And my goodness, Kathy, their shoulders just, went down. They leaned back a little bit, just kind of making some commonality and being a human, and just having a genuine conversation made all the difference. Well, okay, all right, this is somebody who, okay, I can relate now, and let's get on to so it's amazing, that kind of mirroring, and that's just trying to, you know, not trying to just push, just being humans and being interactive and having a great conversation. And let's see, if this can go anywhere, makes all the difference in the world.
So you used like one of the golden words right there, being human,
Yeah.
being yourself. Because a lot of times in sales, there's almost like a preconceived notion of how you need to look, how you need to walk in, everything about it, how the meeting is run. And if you instead are truly yourself and they know, it changes the atmosphere. I remember years ago, I worked for a big company and everyone would wear a blue suit, white shirt, and we would be like an army going in. And I'm kind of one of these rebels. Obviously, I'm known as the professional rule breaker.
You sure are, yeah.
Did I ever wear a blue suit? No.
Hmm.
I was I was wearing a plum suit or a red suit or whatever it was. And that made me stand out. And that is something really important in sales. You always have to figure out, how can I stand out before you approach a customer? Because otherwise you're going to be like every other blue suit that's out there. And I remember one of my coworkers, one of the other I would call rule breakers, he had like a pair of tinted glasses and he would wear, his hair was all spiked. And this was a very, very conservative company. So he looked like he belonged in like the rock group U2, you
Okay.
know? And between the two of us, they always knew what was coming. And our meetings were fun. They
Mm.
weren't dry, but we always had an agenda of what is it that we can do to help you move the needle.
Mm.
And what's interesting is, when you have that attitude, they open up, your potential customers open up a lot more.
Yeah.
And they start answering the questions that you're kind of digging around, trying to find out some more information and really trying to figure out, okay, you might be in the office for one thing, but there's probably a bunch of other things that maybe you could also help them with. And
Hmm.
that's like a really simple way of changing like something that is a lower dollar figure into something that could be huge.
And really understanding them and profiling them. I'm gonna say something here. I don't know how you're gonna accept this, but in conversation with people, and this is a grand leap here, but how do I word this? I enjoy working with a narcissistic personality because you have to make them look good and you'll get the
Yes.
sale.
Right? Hmm.
So people don't like that, and I don't really have that many friends that way. I don't think I have any, but still. So when you really understand them a little bit and just listen to what they say and listen how they phrase things, and even if it's more of a person it keeps on saying we instead of me, right? You just
Hmm.
kind of get these kind of clues. They'll say, okay, I've got to make the team look good. Okay, oh, I did this, I did that. Okay, I got to make this person look good. So again, it's just hearing what they're saying, understanding what they're saying, being human, being interactive, understanding it, and then all the while thinking, okay, how can I provide a solution here specifically tailored toward this person in their group?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your point of contact, it's really your job as a salesperson to make that person look good. It's never your job to shame them or to make them
Mm,
feel dumb or whatever. It's your job to, in some cases, educate them,
mm,
show them what's possible, and of course, to make them look good for whomever their boss is or whomever it might be.
Right.
If you do that, it's a win-win for everybody
Hmm.
because you're making them look good. And at the same time, you're providing this really great solution, and they're going to hold you in higher esteem because of that. So it's a win for you too.
Yeah, when you make those deep relations and you make them look good, even if they leave that company, generally they'll take you to the next one.
Absolutely.
And you'll make deep inroads in that current company, and hopefully can do more there as well. So it's just the Glenn Ross, right? The ABC always be closing. We have this terror, we have
Right.
Alec Baldwin up there, yelling at them. You're going to get the steak knife, every second place gets steak knives, first place gets, and, it's that kind of, I got to sell. I need the great leads. And, this is what we're fearful of as the recipient. What are your feelings on all that, on that movie and those ABC?
Well, I mean, always be closing. Um, I guess it's true in a roundabout way.
Yeah,
It's not so when you say always be closing, we're kind of creeping back to that transactional
sure are.
sale, back
Yeah.
to that used car salesman. So, but at the same time, you're there because you're trying to get some business. So you have to find like the middle ground because whether you have your own business or you work for someone, you are, I mean, you're selling everywhere. You're selling to the customer. If you're working for a company, you're selling to the company as well. Like, hey, I'm going to get this deal. Or sometimes it's like getting the company to even think outside the box. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, there's been, I can't even think about the number of times I've been told, oh, you'll never be able to do that.
Hmm.
I mean, have you heard that statement?
Yes, of course. I love it. I love it.
I know. That's what I was like, please just tell me that. Just
Yes.
say it to me,
Yes.
please. Because as soon as somebody challenges me like that, I'm like, oh, yeah. Let me show you. Right.
Mm.
But a lot of it is changing the mindset, right? It's changing the mindset within the company if you're working for someone, but also changing the mindset of your customer that, you can handle whatever it is that they're looking, to have somebody help them with, or maybe even changing the route that they were planning on taking. Cause maybe they're like, hey, I'm looking to buy product A because I think product A will solve what I'm looking for. But after you've asked all these questions, you're like, that's not going to work.
Mm.
This is probably better for you. But then you got to take them by the hand and lead them down that path to show them what's possible.
Yeah, you certainly do. One of your Instagram's great, Kathy, and your podcasts are great. But one of the Instagram posts you had was success is only 20% skill.
Right. It's absolutely only 20% skill. 80% is all in the mind. It is, I think self doubt and feeling comfortable about what you're doing and being all in on what you're doing is the other 80%. So if
Mm.
you have self doubt, that is the biggest sabotage, like self sabotaging thing that can happen if you're in sales and literally almost in anything. Like whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, if you think you can't do it, in a million years, you're not going to be able to do it.
Mm.
So you need to look at, okay, why am I doubting this? And it's probably due to some experience, some failure, something that happened in your life. And that maybe you could be, afraid to fail because you don't want to be embarrassed by it. So you got to take all of that and literally just throw it away and be fearless in failing.
Mm.
So that's, one thing there. And then you have to be have that mindset of what I'm doing is the best possible solution for the customer. A lot of times when people are selling something and they have struggles for whatever reason, like they have a bad sales month, or it's a new product and they're having trouble getting traction, they start not liking what it is that they do.
Mm.
And that's also another form of self-sabotage. So you have to reframe that. You first off, like let's say, for example, let's say you work for a company, you're having some really bad sales months, you're really negative, you're just like, ugh, in the morning you wake up and you're like, oh, do I have to do this? This is going to be
Mm.
terrible. Okay. You have to reframe everything. You have to think about what was that spark that you had? What was that thing that made you go, you know what? I really want to sell this product. I really want to work for that company. Put yourself back in that frame of mind, because if you don't believe it, you can't sell it.
Wow.
So yeah, 80%, like if you don't have the right mindset, it makes your everyday selling so hard. Really, really hard.
You have to truly believe that the solution you're selling them is going to help them.
Right.
I mean, we went beginning of the conversation where the used car salesperson is it's 100% transactional. They don't even know your name and don't want to, and they're just trying to put you in one of the vehicles on the lot and get it off so they can get their commission. They're probably working, no base and all commission, and so it's
Right.
purely trans. I mean, that side needs to be readjusted as well. But you have to really believe that what you're selling, is going to help them. Now, Kathy, you've sold over or close to $1 billion in sales.
Right.
Incredibly remarkable. Has being a woman been more difficult in sales?
Uh, I've never really looked at it as, anything that's kind of gender based. When I worked for companies, typically I was one of the very few women.
Really?
I don't know. I always think it's an advantage.
Yeah.
But again, it's what is it that you think, right? If I was to think, oh, it's a disadvantage, everybody else is going to, they're going to make more money or whatever it might be, you're going to be stuck in that. But if you flip the script and go, heck no, you know, I know who I am. I
Mm,
think it's advantage. I can, whatever, I can wear fun clothes or whatever it
mm.
is. I can have fun with my clients. I think it's your belief system more than anything else. So I don't think it is. Plus, it makes you stand out
Mm.
in the industry. Like if you are in an industry where it's either all female dominated or all male dominated, if you're one of the few that's of the opposite sex, you're going to stand out right then and there, because your customer is going to go, oh, okay, somebody different, not a
Hmm.
guy in a blue suit, right?
Absolutely. And that comes into that self-doubt and self-sabotage you talked about. Also, like imposter syndrome kind of sets in,
Mhm.
right? And these are all things that you obviously need to remove.
Right. And everybody has imposter syndrome sometime or the other in life. They say usually the high achievers even have it more often than not.
Hmm.
70% of all people in the world have imposter syndrome at
Wow.
some time in their life. So it doesn't matter like how successful you are. The people at the top have the same fears that you do. But the difference is they are able to overcome them.
Your introduction to your podcast, which is great, professional rule breaker. You kind of go over why you're a rule breaker, but you have kind of these three kind of top motivators, as to why you should continue listening and continue watching. Your first one is not to be happy with the status quo. Your kids, your poor kids and husband. You're constantly asking why.
Yes. Drive them crazy. I ask them why, and then I throw another question in. Why not?
Right.
That's actually, those two questions are very powerful in the whole rule breaking, in the whole sales, and quite frankly, I think in success, because you have to think in infinite possibilities. Have a child's mind. Think when you were little, right? Did you think anything was impossible?
No, of course not. Yeah.
No. Or maybe the first time you joined a sports team
Mm,
and you're like, I'm going to be the star.
that's
Did
right.
you not think you were going to be the star? Right? So have that same child's mind of, what's possible out there? What can I do different? What can I do better? How can I push the boundaries? Because if you have that mindset, you're going to stand out and you're going to come up with solutions and questions for your customer that they have never seen before.
Mm, mm. I love when I'm talking to a prospect or a customer and they compliment my question.
That's a,
Wow,
that's a huge compliment. Yeah.
yes, it's a huge. I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way. Wow, and so they kind of sit back and they have to. That's wonderful. Your second point was structured experimentation, willing to
Yes.
take risks, love failure.
Yes. So, boy, you went way back. You went to like my first episode, I think.
Yes, yes.
So, yes, because I really push people to try to be as much as possible fearless in failure. Because if you're not failing every single day, you're just not trying. You're not trying hard enough. And I think the biggest success in life and in business comes out of failure,
Mm,
100% of the time. So if you try something and it doesn't work, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? You learn something,
mm,
right? So you take what you learn and you make a little pivot. Try it again. Let's say it fails again. Okay. You still learn something, right? And then another little pivot, try again. You know what? It might take several failures before you get to that winner, but you're going to get to a place that chances are no one else has gotten to. And it's going to give you success. And quite
sure.
frankly, it kind of builds up the muscle, because the first few times, think about, I don't know, the, first few times that you had like a big failure, right? It really didn't feel good. I think failure doesn't
Mm,
feel good for anybody, but it really didn't feel very good. And maybe you were kind of like embarrassed by it. You didn't want to tell anybody about it. But the more you take that failure and you just let it roll off your shoulder and you keep on going, trying something new over and over again, it's like you're building a muscle
mm,
and it gets easier. Think of it like a child learning to walk, right? They obviously, I don't know any kid. My three boys did not walk the first time they tried to
mm,
walk.
mm.
They fell down, right? Then they got back up and then they fell down again. They were laughing or whatever. And then they got back up. You're not going to tell that child, "Oh, you failed. Don't try anymore." No. You encourage that. You want them to fail more.
You brought up the point of the CEO of Spanx that
Yes,
their father would ask her every day, "What did you fail at?"
absolutely. The Sarah Blakely. That's right. Yeah. That's the best thing ever. I do the same to my kids. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, mom, come on." And I'm like, "No, seriously." Yeah.
You have to learn. You have to learn. And your last point in this, this particular opening video was just passion. Have
Mhm.
passion for it.
Yes. You have to love what it is that you do. Because without that passion and being relentless, it's harder. It really
Mm,
is harder. Passion is, when you wake up in the morning, you're excited because you get to talk to a customer. You get to tell them something really good.
Mm.
You get to do something that you love. People feel it when you are passionate about what it is that you do. So it's really important, for you to have that passion. It's infectious. Because if you were trying to go and talk to a customer and you were just like, oh, buy my stuff, they would be like, no. Instead of like, oh my gosh, did you see that we have XYZ? And, I have another customer that had this experience. But you see the difference just even in my tone
Mm.
and my voice and how I'm
Mm.
holding myself? Big difference, because I said I'm excited. I'm happy. And again, people are going to like you more if you're
Mm.
like that. People buy from people that they like.
They're like, yeah. Can sales be effective without great marketing?
It can be. It's harder without
Mm.
great marketing, especially in the age that we live in now, where everything is digital. Um, so it is important to have great marketing that aligns with the product that you're selling and aligns with the problem that you're trying to solve.
Mm.
Can you still sell when people don't know who you are? Yes, absolutely. That happens a lot in startups, right? You have a great idea, you want to go out there, you want to sell something, you think you have a really great solution. Nobody knows who you are, right? So you have to figure out, how am I going to stand out? How am I going to get in touch with these people? In this day and age, I'm going to tell you one of the simplest things. You pick up the phone and you call somebody, or
Mm.
you walk in and do the old style cold call. Because I think a lot of people right now, they rely on email, to send an appointment, hey, I have this service. We can do this for you. Hit send. Guess where that email goes? It goes in the trash.
Yeah.
And I mean, people don't even really read their emails anymore unless they know who exactly it's coming from. So you have to figure out, how am I going to stand out? And you have to do things differently.
But often we see kind of clashes between marketing teams and sales teams.
Right.
We see
Hmm.
because there's the mentality there, and generally sales ends up making a lot of money. There's a strong commission. There's a base plus commission. Marketing really doesn't see any of that. That needs to be addressed. But a lot of times it's, well, our marketing is great. Our sales stinks, or our sales is great, but our marketing is terrible. And there's just a wall there. I mean, they just
Right.
kind of need to be together.
No, I agree. I mean, that's something I have historically seen that.
Yeah.
And when there is a big divide between the two, first off, they both think on both sides. Sales thinks marketing doesn't understand them.
Right.
Marketing thinks sales doesn't understand what we're doing,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So there's that lack of communication. So when you have a lack of communication, that is it's just doomed, right? Um, so I think it's really important for sales teams and the marketing teams to work together to come up with the right messaging of what works out in the field. And just know that the people out in the field, because if you're in sales and you're a road warrior, you're out there every single
Mm.
day,
Mm.
you are going to get bloodied and bruised. No matter how great you are, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Your success, though, is related to, how many more successes can I have versus the big giant, zeros out there, right? So you have a lot of experience. You have customer facing time. You have a lot of dialogue with the customer. You know what their problems are. That type of information needs to go back to the marketing team so
Right.
that they can structure their marketing so that it is the same, everybody has the same message, right? rather than marketing is sitting up here, inside the corporate walls
Right.
versus being out there. A great thing to do is, have some of the marketing people go ride with some of the salespeople,
Absolutely.
and make it so it's no pressure. Because, in sales, when you have somebody that comes ride with you, there's always pressure,
Yeah.
because they're like, okay, what are they going to report back to the corporate folks? Are they going to think I did something wrong? Are they taking notes? All the crazy stuff that can happen. So you need to structure it so marketing's going out there just to observe, to see how they can help. And then vice versa, the salespeople can go in to marketing and look through the messaging, look through what's going to work. And then there's, you can always use focus groups too with current customers. Hey, how does this marketing sit with you? Does it make any sense? Does it align with like what we've been talking about for the last year as well?
And then, of course, Kathy, the ultimate divide is sales and marketing versus the engineers. Then, because then sales and marketing sell something, they throw it over to the wall, and the engineers are like, what did you sell? We can't do this. So, so now it's for even worse. They all have to be together.
They all do. I have experienced that. I have to
Yes.
say, in my personal experience, I had some of the best engineers in the whole wide world.
Mm,
But we also had a very common respect for each other.
yeah,
And we
that's good.
had great communication. Again, it's the same thing. If whether it's marketing or it's your engineers or customer service or whomever it is, everybody needs to communicate. So
Yeah.
everybody's on the same, on the same plate, right? So if you're talking to a customer, you end up selling them something, you need to let the engineers know, even beforehand, hey, is this something we can do? Yes or no, right? And if it's not, is there a way that we, again, you're always selling as a salesperson. If they say no, then you go,
What's
okay,
close? Yeah.
yeah, I understand. All right. But is there a way that maybe we could meet them somewhere in the middle, meet the
Mm,
customer somewhere in the middle, because this
mm.
is really, really important to them. And we have this already. Couldn't we make just a little bit of a pivot so that everybody's happy? And the thing is, when engineering or whomever it is, customer service, makes that pivot, then celebrate it. Make
Mm,
sure everybody knows about it.
right.
Because guess what happens when you do that? Those people are going to love you and they are going to do whatever it takes to make whatever you need happen.
Yeah. Everybody wins.
Yeah, everybody wins. The client wins,
Yeah.
you win, engineering, customer service, marketing,
Right. Right.
everybody wins.
And if you asked each one of those groups, they'll all tell you that they're the most important thing in the company, and that's,
Absolutely.
sales is most important. Well, no, marketing is, they wouldn't know what to look at. Well, engineer, that we wouldn't have, so again, just kind of lowering the walls and the egos a little bit and knowing that, we're a team.
We all
Uh,
work together
we all work together. Yeah.
because we
Makes,
can't, if you have a team like that, if one piece is missing or one piece is terrible, it's like dominoes. Everything just
mm,
falls down. So if marketing doesn't work, it makes it tougher on sales. If engineering, customer service, whomever your delivery is, right, are terrible, that's not going to work because your customer's going to be mad. Then they're going to tell everybody else how terrible you guys are. It turns into just a giant,
yeah.
giant mess.
It gets worse and worse, like you say, dominoes, and you have to kind of, have some lunches together, do
Mhm.
some activities together, go bowling, go, yeah, and we're all human here, and we all have families, and we all want to have great jobs and a great life work balance, and you're a big advocate of outsourced sales.
Uh, yes and no. Um, I think it depends on your situation.
Hmm.
Um, if you're a small business and your zone of genius is not sales, then you need to find somebody who their zone of genius is sales. And that kind of works for anything. Let's say your zone of genius is not operations or accounting or whatever. I mean, because if you're an entrepreneur, you have started a business, or even if you're a business person, you're in there because you want to be in your zone of genius. When you get dragged into all of these other pieces, you get diluted and you can't achieve as much. And not only that you can't achieve as much, but what you're doing is not at the same quality. And then you start losing passion. You start waking up in the morning going, oh, I have to do sales today. I got to do my accounting. I got to do operations. I got all this stuff, rather than going, okay, who can I find that's a lot better in that than I am? And let's make them superstars in those areas.
One of your podcasts, you were denouncing and the frustration of the non-follow-up.
Oh,
When
yeah.
when I get sometimes, so people are trying to sell, when the salesperson gets sold to, I love it, right? I sit back, okay, what do we have here? Let's see what's
Yep.
going on here. Oh, there's a great conversation. Okay, let's see how the follow. And so I'm actually kind of testing them because who's watching the watcher, right? I understand the process. And the non-follow-up, Kathy, to very big companies, corporate Fortune 500 companies. It's atrocious just do what you say you're going to do.
Oh my gosh. I love how you just said that. Do what you say you're going to do. Not following up is one of my biggest pet
Yeah,
peeves.
of
I
course.
don't understand that. Why do you go through all of this effort finding the customer, setting up an appointment, getting to know who they are, going through the sales process? You're meeting with them, and then you say, "Hey, I'm going to send you XYZ."
Hmm.
And then it's crickets. They wait, and then they have to reach out. Or let's just say you meet with somebody, maybe at that time it's not the right thing, but in the future it might be. But then they never hear from you again.
Hmm.
What's all that about? Right? You are missing out on sales. And it's funny because I totally agree with you. That was one of the areas that, that for me, I differentiated myself. You can count on it, you know, that I will always follow up. If I say I'm going to do something,
Yeah.
it's going to happen no matter what. And that's how I was able to close so much because I was there. I followed
Right.
up. It's the same thing. Think about it. Let's say you're really good with, you have a really good friend, right? You're really good friends you hang out with, you call them, you talk to them. When they have a problem, you guys, you talk about it, you're their shoulder to lean on, vice versa. So what would happen if one day they don't hear from you anymore?
Hmm.
That's exactly what happens in the sales process. You're there, you're trying to build this relationship with them, you're talking to them, and then they don't hear from you.
Hmm.
Not good. It's the same scenario. How would you feel if somebody doesn't follow up with you?
Gotta be human. You gotta just do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
It's not, that analogy is quite apropos because you're making a relationship with somebody just like you have a relationship with others. And I don't know, if you don't have your word, what do you have?
Mhm.
And so it's that kind of distrust. Oh, this person's going to sell me something. They don't care. Well, no, let's just have a conversation. If you have a problem, maybe I have a solution. But otherwise, how's the golf game? Even before our conversation here,
Mhm.
Kathy, we had a human conversation. We were just talking about our local area and, we kind of launched into this. It's just being human. It's just having a general interest. And
Right,
uh,
in another person,
in
exactly the
another
same
person.
thing. I mean, so let's say you have this really great conversation with somebody that's new, you don't know a lot about them,
Mm,
but then you find a little bit more, and maybe they like, um, I don't know, maybe they're a foodie, right?
mm.
Maybe they love certain types of restaurants, and then you just happen to see, like a day or 2 later, oh, there's a brand new restaurant. There's like their favorite, like let's say it's a Greek restaurant or whatever it might be, or that just got like a really great review and said, you know what? All you have to do is reach back out to your customer and go, hey, I was just thinking about you because you and I talked about how much you love Greek food and you haven't really been able to find a place. I just saw this. It just came, it's just opening up this weekend. The previews of it have been really great. That has nothing to do with the product that you're selling, but it has everything to do with the human
Mm,
connection.
mm.
And that, in essence, puts you in a different level versus all your competitors.
Sure does. I can just remember recently, I had a birthday very recently, and I was talking to somebody, and they mentioned they're having a birthday. So, I said, "Oh, that means we're the same sign." And there's a couple of traits there. So I just kind of wrote a note there. And then after the meeting, I just put it in my calendar. And so on that day was their birthday. I just sent them a quick note, and I said, yeah. And I mentioned one of the traits of our astrological sign. Replied back, big smiles, exclamation. It's just making a point, just being human again. I don't know if we're ever going to do business, by the way, but at least you just it only takes a moment. And it just makes somebody smile. Isn't that worth it? I find that as I get older, Kathy, I have more questions than I have answers. And I long for this kind of connection. I long for great conversation and just to kind of get smarter, get more experienced. And I find this to be the best way. So, when I started my business back in the 90s, so I was computer support company here. I'm in the Northeast, and I was working way too hard, Kathy, and not paying attention to my body. And before you know it, I ballooned up to 340 pounds. I was eating pizza and drinking soda all day. And the doctor said to me at my physical, if you don't lose the weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. I just had a daughter at the point. And so that's all I needed to hear. So in the next year and a half, I lost 130 pounds. So people ask me, like they want some, quick tip, just like sales. How am I good at sales? Just tell me what to do. As it's you just got to, you got to be yourself. The answer for me, how did I lose the weight, was just discipline. I got focused. I got disciplined. That's how I lost. That's how I keep it off. You can't look at it as a finishing line. Many people think once they lose the weight, they went through the finishing line. Okay, now I can kind of go revert. You've got to keep at it. And it takes, I feel, discipline. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life, Kathy
Oh,
Walterhouse.
absolutely. No, I love that you brought up discipline because I think it's really important, whether it's in business or it's your life. There's that saying, is how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Mm,
So let's say, you were slacking off. And I've been there too, where we get really busy and we don't take care of ourselves. What ends up happening? On the business side, it suffers too. You don't have as
mm,
much energy, you don't have clear thoughts. There's so much that it affects. So I think it's really important to have discipline on what you do for yourself every day. Like I work out literally, I was going to say every day of the week, but not quite. Sometimes I take the weekends off, but I do. I work out because for me, it clears my head. When
mm,
I do not work out, I feel like I'm all just
mm.
verklempt. It's like I can't focus. Things just don't go right or whatever. So that's important for me. So you need to find what's important for you as far as, your health. Now
Mm.
in business, you know, you can't just do things one day and think, okay, the rest of the year is going to be great.
Mm.
You have to be disciplined to have some sort of routine, put it in your calendar. as far as what you're going to be doing. If you're in sales, put some time that you're going to be contacting customers. And then same thing, follow up. We're going to follow up, put proposals in, whatever it might be. But you have to be really disciplined in your sales career and also in your business. I've always thought of whether I worked for a company or it's my own company. When I worked for a company, it still was my own business. And you have to have that mentality as well too. But discipline, that routine and the habits that you form is really important. And one of the things that for me, I have like certain pillars that I always do. One is what we kind of discussed beforehand. Always do what you say you're going to do. And then the second thing is be relentless.
Mm.
Never, ever give up. And being relentless doesn't mean doing the same thing over and over and over again. It means when you set whatever your goal is, whatever that thing is that you want to achieve, figure out how you're going to do it. Almost have like x-ray vision on it. Go around it, go through it. What is it that you need to do and be relentless at it? I think a lot of times people quit too early because things don't work out in the beginning.
Mm.
Okay, so what? They didn't work out. All right. So what can you change? What else can you do? Who else can you call? How can you get a seat at the table? How can you get in front of that person? Well, where do they go? What do they do? Figure it out. So I would say those two things are really big. And then of course I like being a rule breaker, just thinking
Yeah, you
outside
do.
the box. I'm all about that.
Yeah, you certainly are. When you talked about being relentless, you gave me a chill at one point. Yeah, it's just um, following up and being focused. And I didn't tell anybody I was going to lose the weight. I just did it. It took a while, and I was relentless, and I was consistent, and I was disciplined. But when you want something like that, when you kind of have that, if you have a failure, I considered that before to be a failure. I put myself there. Now I'm going to take myself out. And if you have those failures and then you're relentless and not making the mistake again, and moving forward, it makes all the difference in the world. What motivates you, Kathy?
What motivates me? I like to make actually something you just said. For years, I've always wanted to make a big difference in the world.
Mm.
And there's different ways to make big differences in the world, right? Even with, I just want to scoot back a little bit because, you made a difference by losing the weight
Mm.
because you're around for your
Right.
daughter's wedding, right? So you just created something. You made a difference in your daughter's life. You created a ripple effect
Mm.
there. And so I'm all about creating ripple effects. And for me, with what I focus on now, I have seen so many entrepreneurs and B2B or tech startups or just startups, high growth startups fail. And they were really almost to the part of succeeding, but they gave up too early.
Mm.
So I'm all about how can I impact them so that they can have the income that they want.
Making a difference.
Making a difference, always making a difference. Because I think when you do that, and even in sales, this helps a lot too. You put the customer first.
Mm.
It's not about you anymore when you're selling, it's all about the customer. And what type of difference can you make in their life? What type of difference can you make in their business? Because you don't know. It's that ripple effect. You
Mm.
don't know what, you know, who it's going to affect.
Yeah, you certainly don't. And there's a certain amount of enjoyment and pleasure when you know you've helped others, even if your friends, your acquaintances, your business
Mhm,
associates, that you had part in their
mhm.
success or their happiness. It's really immeasurable. It's wonderful.
No, it is. It really is. Whether or not they know it or not,
Mm, mm,
it's a feeling of satisfaction that you did the right thing.
right,
And I'm a big believer in doing the right thing. I mean, a lot of times when people hear the professional rule breaker, they're thinking I'm like breaking up all sorts of laws and that type of
right.
thing. It's all about doing the right thing and trying to figure out how to do things different so that it becomes better.
Mm, mm. How do you measure success?
Mm, making a difference. When I know I made a difference. Like when I work with a client and I see that they've had some big success, that's my success.
Mm,
I mean, I've been really fortunate, to have some pretty big successes in my life. But it doesn't matter. Like if it's a small, entrepreneur, I get the same joy out of it versus I've helped some companies go public
hmm.
as well. And it's literally the same joy. It's knowing that you did the right thing and you were able to help someone get to that next level. It really is.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I was so excited when you accepted this, Kathy, and I think and I really appreciate your time today. And I've been very excited to talk to you. I just think that if everyone just had the mentality of, can I help solve a problem of yours? You want to call it sales, whatever you want to call it. If engineers could have it, if CEOs could have, non-sales people, if they can kind of latch onto that, it'll just make everyone's life that much easier. I believe that. I think if we just, I keep on not want to say if we all became salespeople, because people get pushed back, but just kind of have the attitude of what we talked about today. Just be able to provide some type of solution that could help you. It's just everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody will win if we all had that mentality. It shouldn't be like I just want to get everything for me
Mm,
and you not have anything because that's just doomed for failure. It should be, let's make it a win-win for everyone that's involved. And yeah, what can you do when you wake up in the morning? Good question to ask is, okay, what can I do today to make a difference?
mm.
Could be something small, could be something really big,
Right.
but you can make a difference in somebody's life. And that's what I actually think sales is you're always making a difference.
That's right. That's right. Without sales, we would not have solutions to problems. It's just, when I first started my business, I was a full technician, right? I was an engineer. Man, I was a great technician. I was a great engineer. And then I had the same mentality. I'm going to have to hire somebody, somebody, slick and hair pulled back to do sales. And then eventually it's just like, all right, you know what? I like talking to the customers now. I like doing this. And then I eventually kind of moved away from being an engineer because I was working on these skills and I was losing some of those other skills. And now it's just, in order to be successful, you have to be good at interpersonal. You have to be good at connections.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the relationship.
Thank you so much for your time, Kathy. This is wonderful. And how can we get in touch with you? Anybody
So,
listening?
very easily, you can go to www.theprofessionalrulebreaker.com. And you can also check out my podcast by the same name, The Professional Rule Breaker. And it's my honor to help people really move to the next level.
Yeah, you do a great job with the podcast. You bring people on, and you create space for them. You do a really really uh, in this world of about 4 million podcasts, not everybody does the best job at having an authentic conversation, but you do really, really, really well at it. TheProfessionalRuleBreaker.com. I'll make sure to put it in the show notes. Kathy, thank you so much for your time today. When I'm in your area the next time, we'll look you up. Perhaps we can all go get a cup of coffee.
Absolutely. I would love that. It was my pleasure to be on your show.
You be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.